Some of the most capable, high functioning women you know are currently living on the edge of panic, and you'd never know it. I was one of them. Hey, if we haven't met yet, my name is Sam. I am a stress management coach and the creator of the Vibe and Embodiment Method, which combines movement, music, and visualization. I work with high performing women who look like they've got it all put together on the outside. They are successful, they've got the life and the vision that so many people crave and aspire to, but on the inside, their nervous systems are in intense overwhelm. Today, I want to talk to you about panic attacks because they are all too common with high achieving women who have perfectionistic tendencies that they are working through. And to share a little bit about my experience with panic attacks growing up and in professional life, as well as one of my favorite go-to tools that helps me move through that sensation in my body whenever it arises. Now, if you are watching this and you have a high responsibility load and you are used to suppressing your emotions, whether you grew up just not learning how to process and feel them, if you grew up thinking they were weak like me, some reason, somewhere you learned to suppress your emotions. Between the high responsibility, the perfectionistic tendencies, and the emotional suppression, it is a rich environment for panic attacks to take root. However, many women who experience this continue working. They continue to show up professionally. They continue to show up for the people that they have to show up for, whether that's leading teams, their family, their coworkers, and they're still performing at a high level. And all of this is buried under the surface and behind the scenes. A lot of high achieving women that I talk to, I'll often say, most women that I work with, no one would know what they are experiencing behind closed doors. And I just get the yep. And I can tell, yeah, there's something that they too are also experiencing that they feel they can't put out there publicly or simply don't want to put out there publicly. But then there's this weird disconnect in the world that we live in with social media that people see our life, they see the success, they see the wins that we're putting out there, and that is everything that they think that we are, and not realizing that every human is carrying so much more than is put online, and that we deal with things oftentimes behind closed doors. And many people who experience panic attacks wouldn't always consider themselves anxious, but they'd consider themselves driven, competent, and dependable. So there's this fear that I have to keep showing up in this way, no matter how much stress I'm under, no matter how much I feel like I'm barely keeping it together. This is what I said I was going to show up for, so I'm going to show up for it no matter how much is building under the surface. And it's that bottling that we can only do for so long before it bubbles over and spills out into whether that is anger, frustration, snapping, or a panic attack. Now, I personally, when I was experiencing panic attacks as a kid, and I was going through depression and all the things, and if you haven't heard my story and why I do what I do today, I'll link that below in the description. But for me, I often saw panic attacks as that I was broken. And panic is not a weakness. It truly is a signal, an indicator that there's something going on below the surface, and it's trying to get our attention to look at it. And oftentimes we're like, nope, can't look at it. Don't have time for that. I don't know how to deal with that. And so we just keep, I'm fine, and keep pushing through to that next thing until inevitably we can't. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of women can end up in the hospital because of the panic attacks and having pushed through it so long, and then all of a sudden it overtakes to where we need to have that intervention. And for me, when I was experiencing panic attacks as a kid growing up, everything looked fine on the surface to other people. Yeah, they knew I was experiencing chronic pain and I was overcoming this identity of being a gymnast, but she's getting good grades. She now has a part-time job. She's learning to make new friends. Like, she's moving on But to me inside, like I felt so disconnected, this intense emotional energy that I had just been bottling because I didn't know what to do with it. And it felt so chaotic, so intense. And there were just so many feelings all mixed together that I didn't know how to process, feel, release, or even integrate into understanding what this experience was that I was moving through. And so on the surface to everyone else, I was progressing. I was moving forward in life, but behind closed doors, that's where I really felt like I could let it go and drop the mask that I was holding for everybody else and just fall apart. And so for me, what panic attacks looked like growing up as a kid, it was when I closed my bedroom door. It was when I closed the bathroom door, when I was in college and I was terrified of social anxiety of going in to be around other people and feeling just this weird disconnect in my body and connecting with myself, let alone other people, having panic attacks in my car. And so for me, it was this way to let that intense energy out, but it was almost like riding a bull, you know, it was this bucking energy that you could not control, you could not tame, and it just needed to get out because it had been built up for so long. And so for me, that looked like, you know, being on the floor, rocking, sobbing uncontrollably, hyperventilating, destroying my room, breaking things, hurting myself, and trying to also keep that a secret because I didn't want anyone to know how deeply I was hurting, how lost that I was, and that I didn't know the answers of how to move forward. Then flash forward many years into the future where I was no longer a teenager, I was no longer in college. I'm now in the professional world. I've gained so many tools to manage my nervous system, to process emotions, to feel them in a healthy way. But now I was getting burnt out. I was working 100-hour weeks. I was so physically, mentally, emotionally depleted that my nervous system was revving. And again, it was that thing where I wanted to push through. I wanted to achieve these things in my career. I wanted to seize these opportunities that were in front of me, but it was draining me and I didn't feel like I had space to stop, to breathe. And so it was just this push. And I just remember having this extreme out-of-body experience where I was getting online, getting in front of a camera. I was speaking to hundreds of students, and I could feel myself like looking down at myself and confidently, clearly speaking on camera, but then also having this intense feeling of this separation, this dissociation, that at any minute, these people who are watching me might see me unravel, might see me start to have this panic attack because I was so on the edge of it, but I was trying to contain it in to continue to show up for what I had to show up for and deliver in the way that I knew I could deliver and wanted to deliver. But there was this intense anxiety that was building behind the scenes that I didn't have that space to let my nervous system really calm down and chill out before I had to keep pushing to that next thing. And that disconnect is something that so many high-performing and high-achieving women are familiar with, that achieving and that success on the outside, but on the inside, this deep survival mode that is driving it. And it's something that so many experience. And so I want to share a tool with you that when that panic comes up, when you don't know what to do with it, how do you find your way back to center? How do you ground? How do you really find your way back so that way you can move forward in a healthier, productive, more grounded way? So first and foremost, why can we not think our way out of a panic attack? And that is simply because when we are in full panic, our nervous system has been hijacked. Our brain has checked off, it's gone offline, and we are in full survival mode using that hind part of our brain for survival, for fight or flight. And our logical brain isn't available at the moment. And so we can't reason our way back to safety. And trying to calm down can often make it worse, or telling ourselves, well, why can't you just calm down, and getting hard on ourselves, judging ourselves, that only pours gasoline on the fire and makes that panic exacerbate. When that panic is taking over the body, the body feels in danger. And so we can't help the brain calm down until the body has found that sense of felt safety again. And once we can create that safety in the body, the mind can start to follow. And the way that I like to think about the mind during a panic attack is almost like you have this little bitty life raft in the middle of the ocean during this intense storm, and the waves are thrashing and that little boat is being knocked around and pulled under the waves, and it is just so intense. And so when we can get the body to start to calm down, those waves start to calm down, and our brain, that little life raft that's kind of being thrashed and thrown around, can start to find a sense of groundedness, of calm, of peace, and it can slowly start to think logically again to where we can then focus on the mindset work, the reframing. But we can't do any of that mindset work until we have that grounded safety in the body first. And for me, growing up, that's really what panic attacks were. They were this discharge of energy, so that way my body could find that sense of calm again, where this energy wasn't ping-ponging around and driving me crazy from the inside out. It was like, oh, I finally got all of this out. But now I feel shame and I feel guilt because I just destroyed my room, all of these different things, whatever that panic attack looks like and exacerbates for you. But then I had that whole spiral after the fact. And so, yes, it helped. It had a positive intention of trying to get this intense energy out of me. But then I had to sit with how that experience felt, how I showed up, what impact that created in the world around me, and then to sit and have to clean up the pieces rather than just having a more healthy, productive way to move that energy through me and come back to center before I destroyed the environment around me. So what started to really help me was that concept of coming back into my body, realizing this body is trying to speak to me, it's trying to tell me something, it's trying to help me, so how can I support it first? And it really was through sensation. That was the main thing that was intense and calling me. And so it was, how can my brain, instead of spiraling with the sensation, spiraling with the story, how can my brain, that little life raft, just try to be the curious observer? Wow, I noticed the waves are really big over here. These storm clouds are really huge. Like trying to just witness what was happening around me and to bring myself back into the physical reality. Because when I was spiraling, my brain was offline and it was building all of these stories in my head. Again, it was like almost like blacked out, checked out, but at the same time pouring that fuel on the fire of you're so broken, you're so this, and not helpful in that moment. And so instead of building the story of why the sensation is happening, how we're broken, how we're failing, it was like, okay, let's just simply notice. Okay, I notice I'm in my room right now. I notice I can see my green drapes on the wall. I can see a really cool pillow on my couch. I can hear my breath. I can hear my diffuser going off. Like just starting to bring myself back into my senses of what I was feeling, noticing, seeing, rather than just allow the felt sensation that was so huge, so overwhelming, to just focus on how intense it was, how unbearable it was. It was like, okay, let me notice that, but also let me start to ground and anchor myself back into the physical reality. Because when you are spiraling and having that panic attack, it's almost like you're going off into another world that's not rooted in reality. And so first and foremost, coming back into reality, coming back into your body, finding that center, and then slowly letting the brain calm down and then redirect that focus versus building that story that's fueling that panic in the first place. And once my body started to calm down, that's when my thoughts started to follow, and it could be a productive step forward versus then, like I said, sitting in that shame, guilt spiral and making myself feel worse for the experience that just felt worse in the first place. So if you are somebody who feels like panic is just below the surface, and especially if you are a high-achieving woman who is responsible for other people, a team, your family, and you are just used to always holding it together, I created a free resource for you to just press play when you are in those moments and you're needing that support to bring you back to center. center. It walks you through the exact body first method that I use when I start to notice my nervous system bubbling over, and that way it can help me come back to center, my nervous system come back to center, and find that ground where I can then build off of and move forward again. And I just want to remind you that if you are experiencing these things, first and foremost, I'm sending you the biggest hug. You are so not alone in this, and you are most importantly not broken. You are not something that needs fixing, but you do need support, and you need to start listening to this panic, this anxiety as a signal for looking around, getting curious, like what in my life is creating and causing this panic? What in my mindset? What in my thoughts? Versus just thinking, because this is happening, I must be broken. And it really is more of a signal and more of your body trying to communicate with you like, hey, something's going on and I need you to look inward at what this root cause is of this, not just, hey, you're experiencing this, so you're broken. The link to that resource is going to be down in the description. You just got to drop your name and email. I'm going to shoot that over to you. And that way you can just drop directly in, press play, and be walked through this technique to come back to center. I'm so grateful to have you here, to be sharing the tips, the tools that helped me revive my life from the inside out, and to give you an alternative pathway to healing, to reviving your life, and to living your life in a way that is unique to you and fulfilling your soul from the inside out. So if you like this video, if this resonated with you, make sure to like it, leave a comment of what stood out for you, and make sure you hit that subscribe button so that way you are in the know for when future videos, future tools drop, and we can continue to move forward one step at a time together. Your body is always trying to protect you, and with the right tools, the right support, you can learn how to work with it rather than against it, which is what we often learn in so many of the fads, the diets, the intense exercise plans that many of us grew up with. It's about learning how to work with, how to listen to your body rather than suppress, force, and push it into a mold that it is not meant to be in. I'm so grateful to have you here. Welcome in to the Revive Living community, and I will see you in a future video.